How do you take something as complex as smell and turn it into a device that a doctor could use? Welcome to From the Vault of the MonellCenter. Translation is a process, starting with chemistry and perception, and ending with hardware, software, and population-level data. In this third part of Dr. Andreas Keller's Visiting Scientist Seminar from the Vault of Monell, he walks us through the final and often overlooked stage of scientific innovation. Translation from lab concept to real-world tool, a smell delivery system designed to be self-administered, fast, and scalable. At Monell, similar efforts are underway to bring smell testing to everyday use. Specifically, Sentinel, a rapid smell test designed for quick, accessible screening, helping move the field towards scalable, real-world solutions. Further, Dr. Keller describes validation, which are results from large diverse populations that define what normal smell function looks like across age, sex, and background. With that said, here's Dr. Andreas Keller.
Inside those cartridges, we had aroma beads. Here the problem was the cartridges on horizontal, so the odor would leak out at the bottom. And so now the next version, they are horizontal. This is a photo at Rockefeller of a device. We had to then also rebuild the device so the tube where the smell comes out to the patient will be a disposable part because of the fear of corona. Here you also see a screenshot of the software that we wrote to run that. And then this is kind of like the current. It looks very similar to the current version we are using. So it has 24 channels. So smell R has 10 steps and smell S has 10 steps. And then there's 2 channels that are the controls for both of those tests. Cartridges are refillable. So in the cartridge, there's a sponge that's soaked in the scent. And so they are made out of a non-absorbent material. So you can just open them, pull out the sponge, wash them, put a new sponge in. And the business model idea is that people would get the device and then would buy new cartridges and exchange them and then go through whatever number of tests the cartridge gives them. There's a miniature diaphragm air pump in it that pushes the air through the cartridge and then out to the patient. You have the valve that switch through which of the channels it goes. Flow rate is adjustable. We set it to 1 liter a minute mostly, and it communicates controlled by a software from any Windows running machine through USB or Bluetooth. And it's relatively small, 30 by 22 by 7 centimeters, and relatively light. So here's another, this is like the whole thing dismantled here before we send it out to our collaborators to use. So you look at number 1 and number 2, and then number 10. Number 10 is the cartridge vacuum seal because it's loaded with the odor. So you rip off the vacuum seal from the cartridge number 10 and then insert it on those 2 metal rods on number 2. And then you screw number 1 on those rods. And then you have the basic machine assembled. And then the other stuff is just to connect things and plug them in and have your disposable tubing that comes out in the front. I also have a video. This is an older version, and it's me smelling it. So you smell 1, then you think about it, smell the second, think about it even more, and then you smell the third. So now you have completed your triangle, and now the app asks you which one it was. I click on 2 and I click on next and move on to the next. And then the software that George Lee wrote for that can show it too. What are the goals here for the product development? It was quick, easy, and self-administered. So we're trying to make that self-administered, and it looks like most people are. We made a little cartoon that gives people instructions of what will happen. And then when it actually comes to it, screen looks like this, because I did this yesterday when it wasn't connected to a device. There's nothing lighting up now, but normally 1 would light up, and then 2, and then 3, as those smells are coming out of the tubing. And then after that, you're asked to press on which one has the strongest smell or the different smell. And then up here in the left, in the menu, you have settings and device. That are 2 important menu points there. In the settings, you can set how long do you want the odor pulse to be, how long do you want to be the break between them, the pause between them, and some other settings. And then in device, you get different screens, but the most important one is probably where you can control individually all the channels and deliver whatever you want to deliver through that same device and software. Okay, so that's easy and self-administered. What about quick? So we tested a few people informally, just friends and family. And so that test on average takes about 7 minutes. Many people finish it in 5, but then there's also, sometimes it takes longer depending how many trials they have to go through till it is over. And also the time between the triangles is set by the patient. So only when you click, I'm ready for the next, does the next one come along. We haven't rolled that out yet, but we're trying to change from this staircase algorithm to another algorithm that's called Quest Plus. The main advantage here is that if you look to the staircase, in this case, it starts at the easiest and then it goes for a long time till it comes to the level where the actual threshold is. Quest Plus has a prior distribution of those thresholds, so it knows what the most likely result will be, and then it can start the testing at that level where the most likely result is. And then it calculates the most likely result as it accumulates data. So it doesn't have a strict go up or go down, but it just recalculates what the likely threshold is, and therefore always makes the test that carries the most information. A further advantage is that at the staircase, you only use those very few last tests and you throw away all the results from the beginning of the staircase, which are informative too, whereas Quest Plus uses the entirety of it. So we hope that very soon we can switch to Quest Plus, and we hope that that will make it a quicker test. You also can set it in the settings. You can set what confidence interval you would want to have, and then you could change between a quick screen and a very detailed analysis of smell. Okay, so now we have a product, gone from the science to having a product that works well when we play around with it. But nobody would buy that because 2 things we now need is A, normative data, and B, validation tests. The normative data collection, we are going to do at Penn State with John Hayes. And as I said, normative data collection is necessary to interpret the result, right? I showed you before, like this person has a smell score of 10.5/9. But if I just tell you that, you can't use that information because you don't know what a normal score for that age would be, what the variability in scores is, and so on. So if you to interpret that, you need to get the scores from a wide variety of diverse, healthy people. And that's what we're doing with John Hayes. Here's just an example, one of the tests that are out there and that are being used, the sniffing sticks and the normative data collection for the sniffing sticks. So they have between 97 and 2019 tested 9,000 people and have that as a set for their normative data, which is enough to subdivide it in men, women, and age groups and so on. And they also have used different centers to spread out that normative data collected. And we need that to compete with those tests.